The man who led a review of Tasmania's forest industry has warned that both sides of the debate face catastrophic losses if a compromise isn't reached. Professor Jonathan West has spoken for the first time since the release of his report. It comes as the state government refuses to back the findings of the former Harvard academic, which are highly critical of Forestry Tasmania.
The chorus of voices against Professor Jonathan West continues. There's anger about his report saying Forestry Tasmania has been harvesting native timber at double the rate it should be.
Of course I back Forestry Tasmania.
We don't believe that Professor West's assertions are accurate.
It's the sort of backlash Professor West's wife and others warned him about before he agreed to review Tasmania's forest industry.
And it was the industry people pleading with me to take it on that actually finally led me to accept.
Professor West says industry and environmental groups have no other option but to achieve peace.
Both sides in this dispute will, in the relatively short term, run the risk of losing everything that they fought for. It's a kind of a mutually assured destruction scenario.
The academic says for the first time in the decades-old conflict, environmental activists are capable of destroying the industry.
Making the industry sufficiently controversial that it can't be economically viable.
But he says doing that would risk some of the most important big trees conservationists are trying to protect in the 572,000 hectares of native forest in the peace deal.
The likely reaction would be a wave of outrage and bitterness to which politicians would respond by attempting to rebuild the industry, including with public money.
He believes economic activity like mining can continue in new reserves.
Mining, certainly mining exploration, has only minor effect on very small areas.
Professor West believes opposition to Gunn's contentious Tamar Valley pulp mill will fade if the dispute is resolved.
I don't think, given the history, that it's realistic to expect that these organisations will endorse a pulp mill. But I do think it's reasonable to expect that they will not campaign against it.
Only time will tell.
State political reporter Brad Markham joins us now from Parliament. Brad, Forestry Tasmania has been among those ridiculing Jonathan West's work. What's he had to say?
Well, Peter, Professor West says he's reluctant to get into a slanging match with the head of Forestry Tasmania, Bob Gordon. But he points out, though, that his report isn't based on any analysis he's undertaken. Professor West says the harvesting data is from modelling done by Forestry Tasmania, and he disputes claims that any of the figures are inaccurate.
How have the Greens reacted to the West report?
Well, as you'd expect, they say that it backs up their criticisms about Forestry Tasmania. Now, the party wants to know when the next stage of that major review into the state-owned business will be handed to government, and it's critical to the way it's managed. Now, here's what the Premier had to say earlier.
And yes, we are expecting to get stage 2 at the end of this month, and I've not been advised that that timeline will not be met. I will not be preempting anything in that report. I haven't even seen that report. It's not with us as yet.
Now, for now, the focus remains on the peace talks and whether the Forest Industries Association will return to the table so a final agreement can be thrashed out in the next few weeks. Peter?
State political reporter Brad Markham.